All right. Ready?
No.
He hasn't moved
2,
back.
3. Oh, shit.
He said no.
I thought he was frozen for a second.
windows, Kevin.
I thought he was frozen for a second.
No.
He said no.
I didn't hear that.
You make me resize my windows to see that the number
You
is.
make me lean forward. I
Yeah.
resize my windows.
Yeah. I'm working with limited
My bad.
equipment
My
here.
bad.
All right.
Limited vision, baby.
That's right. All right.
My bad. All right, here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines
Hey there.
and Randall Nolery.
Hey, folks.
And we are back, as always, to talk about some video games. And, I guess we can just dig right into the action. I still digging through, I guess, some of my Christmas gifts. I got a vertical mouse, finally. And this is something that I've talked about on the podcast. Or I don't know if I've talked about it. Maybe just when we've been like discussing before recording on the podcast, but I know I've talked with Randall about this.
Oh, yes.
About like how that would work. Cause I can't remember who initially suggested a vertical mouse to me, just in terms of like, I'm on the computer a lot, whether it's playing games or, just updating stuff on social media or doing stuff for Pursuing Pixels on the YouTube, whatever. I'm on the computer a lot.
Yeah.
So I am noticing, and I've talked about some of my body, ongoing chronic pain issues, not a ton, but briefly on the podcast. And, whatever is going on, I have some kind of hypersensitivity with my nerves. And like, I'm really noticing like my arm over time. I'm like, man, when I'm on the computer, my neck and my shoulder and my arm, like just really start to hurt. And I started like, once whoever, in the Discord or wherever I had seen these vertical mouses, whatever, like when I saw them, I was like kind of faking, phantom miming what it would feel like to use one. And I was like, man, this actually feels pretty comfortable. I can sort of immediately feel the like alleviation of the tension in my shoulder, even just fake using one, So I was like pretty convinced, like, okay, I definitely want to get one of these. So I did a little bit of research and like, no huge surprise, everybody seemed to recommend the Logitech vertical mouse just in general. And specifically, like if you have a remotely big hand, get the Logitech MX vertical.
Yes,
sir. Is the name of the mouse. So that's what I asked for Christmas. It's actually pretty much the only thing other than a couple of games that I asked for. And so I got the mouse, opened it up, started using it, and I was like, immediately it feels kind of awkward if you're not used to using it, even if even with my fake phantom practicing beforehand. I was like, nope, this feels totally different than I imagined it. But one of the things that I was super bummed about, because the mouse that I have currently is like a just cheapo, like $12 mouse. But when I click it, it's like whisper quiet, I think is what they call it. It's like really makes pretty much no noise when I click it. But this new Logitech mouse is like real clicky and annoying to me. Like I actually kind of like when I'm clicking it, it's satisfying. Like I like that feedback of it.
Yeah.
But when I'm streaming and stuff like that, if I'm playing like a game that uses mouse controls, like I know when I'm watching other people and I can hear, or when I'm like recording or like editing our videos or just trimming them, I can hear the controller. I'm like, I sat too close to the mic on that one. And I'm just like, I don't want to hear that mouse clicking all the time. So, and I was like, it did feel like a good size. Like in my hand, I was like, everybody's right about it. If you have a big hand, I don't have a massive hand, but on the larger side, I mean, I'm a 6 foot tall guy, so I have a decent size hand. But I was like, you know what? I read for whatever reason the downgraded version of that mouse, which is just called the Logitech Lift.
Yeah.
It's a little bit smaller.
Yep.
But it does have whisper quiet click. So in my head, I'm like, why does the better version not have I don't know. In my head, it seems like that's an upgrade to have the quiet clicking. But I guess people like one or the other. You might like the mechanical keyboard and have the clicking keys and whatever. You might like the silent keyboard. So I guess it is sort of a preference thing. So anyways, I ended up returning the MX vertical and getting the Logitech Lift, but it definitely is a little bit on the small side.
Yeah.
So now I'm sitting here. I like how it feels overall in terms of like the feel in my hand. And it mostly feels like if I'm holding it just in my hand in the air, it fits in my hand okay. But then when I'm holding it on the table, because I don't have, like when you're holding a regular mouse, you can kind of just put your pinky or extra fingers off to the side. But with a vertical mouse, your pinky kind of is like at the bottom of the table or
the
your
base.
desk or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like gliding along the table, and you can kind of move it off to the side a little. But I found like because this mouse was just a little bit smaller, I was like, I'm still kind of holding my hand in like a crampy finger way. So I'm kind of torn now. I'm like, I kind of like the feel of the, the size and feel of the MX Vertical, but I know when I'm doing streaming and stuff, and in particular, again, if I'm playing like a game that uses mouse controls, which I don't do a ton of, to be fair, but one of the games I'm going to talk about shortly, and it's actually the game that I'll just talk about it right now, is testing out the mouse. I was bouncing around between a few different games, but the one that I actually got kind of sucked into was the Turgenev Study, which, from no surprise, is from PUNKCAKE Délicieux. I'm like just the biggest fan of their stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And they actually initially released this game for the previous Ludum Dare Game Jam. So they won the previous Ludum Dare Game Jam before that with Shotgun King. Then the previous, I think they do Ludum Dare twice a year. So they released the Turgenev Study, but then they, with their kind of game a month Patreon subscription, they kind of fleshed out that game and turned it into a more full-fledged kind of roguelike situation. And yeah, I talked about it briefly on Save It for the Cast, but I've really kind of dug into this one, and I kept every run. It's sort of like a roguelike arcade game, and every run I was like, play with the vertical mouse, switch to the regular mouse, vertical, and I just kept switching back and forth. And I did find that in terms of like gameplay, I definitely don't like using the vertical mouse. And to be fair, this is the first time I'm trying it, so I didn't really get used to it, but I just found that like I really can't move as quickly. Like the way I hold a mouse when I'm playing a game, I kind of like pinch it between my thumb and pinky finger or ring finger sort of, and I kind of just shift my fingers around and have the sensitivity turned up really high. Whereas like with the vertical mouse, you really kind of have to like move your whole arm to move things around. And in particular, if you want to like pull backwards or pull down and, in the instance of playing like a game with any kind of fast pace, like, I got to pull the cursor down real quick or pull where I'm aiming down real quick. Like I just found that to be real clunky and like, I don't know. I do need to give it more of a chance, but I'm kind of like, I don't want to keep using this mouse that's too small for my hand. But long story short, it didn't matter which mouse I was using because I other than the fact I was better using my traditional mouse than using the vertical mouse playing Turgenev Study, I was still loving every second of it. And so basically the way this game works is like, you're kind of like, you control this little like triangle that just kind of moves around in like a petri dish. And it's like, I talked about it before, like the game kind of has like an electroplankton visual style, almost more souped up in the sense that there's just a few more colors, I guess. There's a few different palettes you can pick from, but basically you control this triangle and you're moving around and you can like do these little like kind of like bullet bursts that kind of like almost like in a bomb in a bullet hell game where you can kind of burn it, because it kind of does play like a bullet hell. This petri dish, like all these little organisms just start swarming you, and there's all these different types, and then every 10 seconds you have this like circle radius that just like grows around you, and then it kind of like absorbs everything within that circle after the 10 seconds. So it kind of grows for like the last second, and then you suck everything in. And then there's a few different, like some of the enemy types, like after you absorb enemies, like that probe enemy will start like, or I forget what all the names are, but that one particular type will like start swarming in and like kind of heat seeking on you. And then there's some that just heat seek at you at all times. There's some that don't do any damage to you if you touch them, that you just kind of bounce off them like pinball bumpers, but they might bounce you into another enemy. But after you collect enough of them, you can then like assimilate with certain cells. And the reason I love like I don't always love the kind of grindy nature of roguelikes, like if they have that structure to them, but because this is like almost takes place like you're like looking through a microscope and you're like trying to like do these experiments, like it'll have 3 little challenges on the side that are like score 100 points or capture 3 of the probe organisms or whatever, or capture this, and then once you complete those, you'll like unlock a new enemy type or a new whatever. And then every time you assimilate or you kind of like capture one, like every creature has its own. So when you like assimilate with one of like I don't know if I'm using the term right, I don't know if they use assimilate or whatever, but when you kind of like absorb into like the ping pong bumper enemies, like they will make the actual like petri dish size grow. Or when you like the snake kind of plankton looking enemies, when you touch and absorb them, they'll make like your circle radius grow for what you can absorb. And then there's like speed upgrades. So like every enemy that you absorb, you're kind of like taking on their qualities, if you will.
Okay.
And then like as the game goes on, like you can get like, if you collect 3 of the same type, you get like a bonus 100 points, and it just kind of like keeps stacking up. And I keep like, I've played a decent amount of runs now, and I'm still seeming to unlock new like gameplay modes and new like still new enemy types. And it looks like
sweet.
right now I can only get up to 3 of any one kind of organism or whatever. But on a little like GIF that they have on like the page, there's 5 rows that you can get. So clearly you can like upgrade that even further. So I'm like, man, what is even like, there's a lot going on in this game that clearly they could have just been like, oh, we made a game jam game and leave it there. But I'm so happy to see like PUNKCAKE getting opportunities. And I know they even made an announcement like rolling into 2023. They're like, hey, I know we're a little bit behind on our monthly release schedule, but like, you know, bear with us. And per usual, everyone's like, hey, we just want to play cool games. Like $3 a month, $4 a month.
Monthly
like
games.
Turn it
whenever they
quarterly,
come out. Like
yeah, exactly.
Sokpop actually changed theirs. They're like, we're keeping it monthly, and they're giving out, like now that they have over 100 games or 100 on the dot, I think they're like, now their monthly patrons get 2 of their old games every month, and then they're just like, you'll just get our new games when they come out, but we're not doing it on any schedule. They're like, we want to make bigger stuff that's more fleshed out. And I will talk more about Spring Blades in the future. I talked about it on a Save It for the Cast, that like Paper Mario inspired RPG from them, which is that was their 100th release, if I'm not mistaken, and their most recent one at the time of recording this anyways. But I'm like, if that's any small indication of like what's to come in terms of like just scope and like, you know, just what they're looking to do and like flesh out their ideas. Cause I have been playing some of their older games lately and been like, okay, this is a really cool idea, but it is just kind of almost like a tech demo with really cool graphics and music and stuff, but there's not a lot, you know, beyond that. But yeah, I really am just so hooked on the Turgenev Study. I'm probably going to play after we sign off here tonight too. I'm just like really hooked on it. But to go back to the vertical mouse though, Randall, what is your experience with it in terms of, because like I said, I literally, this is just me using it for one day and going, I don't think it's for me, but also torn between like, the clicking, like there's a lot of factors. So part of me is just like, I think I just need to find a bigger one that isn't made by Logitech that might have the whisper quiet clicks, or just use that one and then on the off chance that I'm playing a game, you know, just use a regular mouse.
Yeah.
You know,
actually
using it for a stream.
I've got both of those mice because so I bought the MX
the
Vertical.
lift and the vertical.
Yeah. I bought the MX Vertical for myself just because I wanted ergonomic equipment. You know, I've also got a lot of like body ache issues and go to the chiropractor, medical massage, all that fun stuff. But so I got the MX Vertical a couple of years ago, and I love that. And to be honest, I've never noticed the clicking, but I'm also Mr. Arcade Stick and stuff like that. So that's just
and the feedback is nice. Like it's a really nicely made mouse. It would just had like weird stuff, like you know how like usually a mouse, like when you open it up, it has like a little spot to tuck the USB dongle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like the MX Vertical didn't have that. Like it was just loose. And then like,
why do you need to tuck it if you're using it, Kevin?
That's true. I did think about that after the fact. I was like, I do just leave it plugged in like at all times. I never take it out. But then I was like, but it doesn't have its own separate battery. Like I got to plug it in and charge it. So I got to keep the cable around. I don't know. There's a few little like nitpicks about it.
There's a built-in battery and you're picking it apart for that, Kevin. I like that.
I don't have to waste one of my Eneloops.
That's my primary mouse, the MX Vertical, and I've, like I said in the last episode too, I've got larger hands, so that one fits me better. To be fair, I have not played games that much on that mouse. To be fair, it's mostly just like, you know, I'm cruising around spreadsheets and open up emails or whatever with it. So I'm not doing anything intensive with it necessarily. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But I find it way more comfortable than a traditional mouse. Long time ago, I had like a Microsoft ergonomic mouse, which kind of like tilted your hand a little bit, but not like a vertical mouse does, right? So, and then I also have the lift one because part of what I do for my agency is I try out new equipment that could be the standard for IT that we hand out for folks for ergonomic. And so then I got the lift one, and I paired that with our old iMac, and I was like, oh, okay, give that a go. And it's everything you said. It's a little bit smaller, but it's still a really good vertical mouse, and it is quieter for sure. Because I only have to use it in limited sessions, the smallness of it doesn't really bother me as much, I would say.
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking like I could live with this because the mouse I'm using currently is kind of small. That's why I wanted a bigger mouse and just a more comfortable one in general. But I was just like, you know, I could probably use this, but then I thought about like if it is my like one and only go-to mouse, like it might be I might have to go back to the bigger one, get the MX Vertical, and just live with the clicking. And just like, okay, if I'm going to do a stream of the Turgenev Study, I'm going to use my little Jellycomb $12 mouse that clicks silently. Although it does misclick every now and then.
Oh.
So that's part of the reason I was wanting a new mouse too. I was like, this one, like every now and then it'll whiff. Maybe it's just a low battery or something. But
in my experience, that's kind of the industry standard ergonomic equipment right now is that MX Vertical, and you can download an app that lets you mess with sensitivity stuff and other settings, customizability wise.
And how long would you say it took you to get used to using it?
Not very long, but again, I've been using a non-standard as far as everyone else is concerned mouse for a long time before that. So to me, that was just like an upgrade from what I had already been using ergonomic wise.
Yeah, the size was spot on. Like it just fit my hand like a glove, like Gary Payton style. Just like, okay, this is like on the spot. Like my fingers were like perfectly lined up with the clicker, the clicking button. It was just perfect. So
that's great.
It is a nice looking mouse.
Yeah. And I always use a lot of keyboard shortcuts in what I use with computers anyway. So like half the time, I limit my use of mice in general. So it's like,
yeah, I was just going to say it was actually kind of nice though, having the two buttons. I think both versions of the mouse have this, but like I think they have like a kind of forward. I think you can customize what they do, but there's like a forward and back button, at least when you're online. So I was like, I hit it on accident. And I was like, oh, does that just go forward and back like to your previous pages? I was like, oh, that's kind of convenient depending on what you're doing,
And not to be a Logitech rep, but you can pair it with multiple devices and stuff too. But
I think both can do 3. No, Logitech is legit. I remember even when we worked at Best Buy, we'd be like, hey, if you're gonna buy a third party controller, get a Logitech. Like,
it's good stuff.
Otherwise, get first party. But if you're not gonna get first party, then you gotta get Logitech.
Yep.
Yeah. No doubt about it. But why don't we kick it over to John for some of what you've been playing lately, which I'm excited you're going to talk about it because I played a little bit of this a long time ago on Game Pass, and I don't think I ever talked about it really.
Yeah, I was going to ask also, like, Randall, have you played any of this at all?
Which one?
Bugsnax.
No, so I've downloaded it, and I've never got a chance to play it. It's always been one I've been interested in, but no, I've not had a chance to play it.
So it was what was it originally a version exclusive for? Was it Xbox or was it for PS5?
It might have been placed. I think it was PlayStation because I remember DJ telling us to play it or something, and then it like came to Game Pass. I was like, oh, nice, Bugsnax is here.
It was another one of those releases that I just was not aware was even like a possibility. I was like, oh, I know it's a version exclusive. Like, well, yeah, I'm putting that out of my mind. And then as soon as it was on Switch, I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm getting Bugsnax now. Because it looked interesting to me, but I had a very different idea of what it was, and I didn't do too much like digging into it. Like I kind of knew that there was more to it, which if you don't know what Bugsnax is, it's a first person perspective like adventure puzzle game. Ooh. And like that has been like I kind of knew that, and but the titular Bugsnax are bugs that look like snacks, and like they're Pokemon really say their name wherever they are. So my wife and I have been just saying Bunger to each other over and over again, and it's really entertaining. But it's a really like cute game, but it also has like a lot of serious undertones to it. And it is way more narrative based than I thought.
Yeah, like I was expecting more of like kind of like a Pokemon or even like Slime Rancher. If
Slime Rancher is what I expected.
Yeah, and it was like, oh man, this is like kind of like a first person like shooter puzzler, like you were saying, like not like Portal per se, but like kind of like that kind of stuff.
And like I thought it was going to primarily be, and like a good portion of the game is like, you see a Bugsnax in the wild and you're like, okay, well, what I see that this Bugsnax is like, actually, I've only ever heard them referred to as plural. So now I feel weird saying a singular
snack.
Yes. When you see Bugsnax in the wild, you see them and you're like, oh man, like this one's on fire and I don't see anything that I can like launch it into that would make it like the fire go out, and I can't interact with it because all my my tools are made of wood and like they get turned on fire. So like how can I like figure out the interplay of the environment or Bugsnax off each other? And it's really fun and satisfying, but like every once in a while the environment will just like Bugsnax will encounter each other and like you'll see the little timer go down over their name as like, I don't know what happened, but I need to catch this one because I didn't figure out that puzzle. But like it's a really interactive and like interesting like sandbox game in terms of that, where it's like each of the Bugsnax have their own little routes that they go on and you scan them and it gives you little hints and tells you what they love and what they hate. And there's ranch, ketchup, peanut butter, and hot sauce that you launch at them, and like certain ones like one and hate the other. And it's just a really fun like puzzle game on that. And then it also is like a really entertaining and engaging story. And besides that, and like that is the way that you advance into new areas, is you take care of like either little fetch quests or like solve a like altercation between like other characters. But like I was really expecting it to be you're on this deserted island full of Bugsnax and you have to catch them, and it was way more of like you crash land on this island where there was a colony of people like looking at Bugsnax and something went wrong and you need to like put together like that is a mystery.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of
mystery
mystery going on. I remember being like, oh, I wasn't expecting to be like, I don't know, sucked into this a little bit. Again, I didn't play much beyond the first session because I just tend to do that with Game Pass stuff. Just like, oh, let me check this out real quick. But it almost has like a point and click adventure style like to it. I don't know,
but like the advanced version of that, where it is a lot more like actually engaging in the environment as opposed to just clicking on something.
Yeah, and things get a little like physicsy, or you just got to like experiment around like what happens when like this Bugsnax reacts with this one, because they all kind of like have like a trait or like a qual, like you can kind of use them.
Some are aggressive and will attack you or other Bugsnax. Some of them like love other Bugsnax, so they'll always like follow them. Like it's like a really well done like small little puzzle game, and like small is doing it a disservice because like it's a huge amount of physics, like you were saying, like of just colliding with each other in ways that are like different behaviors for different Bugsnax. But it's really enjoyable. It's like a nice like fun low stakes puzzle game, even though the story is serious and like interesting. But like at the end of the day, you are feeding grumpuses, as they're called, and they all look like Muppets, but then you feed them Bugsnax and they take on the traits of the Bugsnax they eat. And then like you have this thing where like they're talking about social anxiety or depression, and it's like, oh man, there is a little bit of like whiplash going on here. But it's interesting. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Yeah, it seems like a fun game to like sit down and play with Lauren as well. Like if you're like kind of playing it together, you can like sort of puzzle solve, like backseat, give some ideas.
She hates that they eat the Bugsnax because they're all cute, and she's like, "No, I agree with the Grumpus who says we don't eat Bugsnax. Like, you can't eat Bunger."
Yeah, I'm. It's funny that you had a similar experience to me too. I was just like, yeah, this isn't at all what I was expecting. How does it run on Switch, by the way, in terms of, because I guess my Xbox One isn't the most powerful thing either.
There's a lot of load times. Those are pretty big, and like other than that, which is surprising because it doesn't feel like necessarily robust in terms of like either the graphics or like I think maybe it might be just how it runs on Switch, how they got it to run on Switch is that there's a lot of like pop in of like elements and like those load times. But other than that, like it runs fine. I mean, it looks great. Like it's got that, it has a aesthetic to it that like really lends itself to like just looking good. Like, and it's a consistent
it's got a cool
look.
Yeah, it's got a really cool style. Yeah, it's got, like you said earlier, very much like a Muppet kind of Sesame Street vibe at times.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, why don't we kick it over to Randall for I think you've been doing some retro-ish gaming?
Retro-ish gaming, yes, but on the most modern platform that I have, of course.
Yes.
So why else would you buy an Xbox Series
X? It's the only way to do it.
But to play a game from 1997.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So to bring this back to the meta of this podcast in general, I'm like, I want to talk about Battle Circuit. I'm like, did I talk about Battle Circuit before? I did talk about Battle Circuit before. I talked about it on episode 6 in 2019.
That's why it doesn't sound familiar to me.
Yeah, John probably wasn't even on that one.
I was not.
No, I went back and listened to it, and I was like, oh yeah, we sound a little low energy in that one. Actually.
Eons ago, yeah.
It's like, wow,
Big
okay,
time.
this really.
Even when I watch like some of our old YouTube videos, when I post something online, I'm gonna like grab a clip. I'm like, oh man, was I like asleep when I streamed this? What the heck's going on?
We've come a long way.
Yeah, it's been a few years.
Battle Circuit hasn't, though. It's always been that good. And that's why I'm talking about it again 3 years-ish, almost 4 years later. Yeah, Battle Circuit. So this is a Capcom-developed arcade exclusive release. So Capcom just recently, I think last year, 2022, maybe 21, I think 22, released the Capcom Arcade Stadium, which has a lot of their from 1980 through 2000, I would say, arcade releases. But there's notable stuff. There's like, obviously there's Street Fighter and 1941 and all that sort of stuff, but there's also Gigawing is available on there too.
Oh, nice.
Which was a notable Dreamcast.
I was gonna say that was Dreamcast, right?
Yeah, but
it's a really cool game.
Arcade first, and Battle Circuit is another one of those kind of later release while arcades were still kind of sort of viable. And yeah, it's got amazing 32-bit sprite art because it's 1997, but unfortunately because the Saturn was already a dying platform, again I gotta mention the Sega Saturn, but this is a game that should have come out on the Sega Saturn but didn't because it wasn't a successful platform essentially, timing wise, so it stayed in the arcade and didn't see the light of day as far as I was concerned until it was like the Capcom Beat 'em Up collection or something? Yeah. Which came out on Switch and other platforms back then in 2018, 2019, whatever.
I was going to say, because there were like 2 games on that, right, that never had come to North America before, I believe.
Yeah, that's good memory. I think you're right. Yeah, I think there were a couple of those.
I remember there being something where I was like, do I need to get this game or no, I can pass on it. But I was like, I do kind of want to play those.
Yeah, Battle Circuit in particular is just like, damn, this is a great beat 'em up. Like it feels so good. It's just like refined beat 'em up mechanics because it's 1997. It's so late in the game for that genre, and like 32-bit art was still like a thing they decided to spend resources on to make, even though 3D had been industry standard and what everyone was pushing, and platforms like PlayStation were saying no, you can't release any 2D games on our platform. It was in those heydays, but they still released this 32-bit sprite art thing to arcades, and I think maybe only in Japan for what that's worth. I don't know how much of a US release even it got, but gosh, it's awesome. 4-player arcade beat 'em up. You pick up these coins that you can use as currency to like upgrade your moves. There's super weird characters, like there's like an alien, there's like a little girl riding a pink ostrich, there's like a couple of generic
playable characters.
Oh yeah, these are the playable characters. Yeah, so then there's like a Stretch Armstrong guy who kind of looks like the Noid. Like there's all kinds of like so it's just really out there, kind of like a sort of kind of sci-fi but modern aesthetic backdrop, and doesn't take itself seriously at all, but just it's Capcom, so there's just a level of polish and precision happening there. They had already created a bunch of games, obviously, but beat 'em ups too. By that point, Knights of the Round and other games like that Capcom had released, so they knew what they were doing in that regard too. And to me, it was like, okay, I'm buying now the Capcom Arcade Stadium, and one of the main reasons you could buy these games piecemeal, but you could also buy them in packs. I'm like, you know what? At Christmas time, just so happened to throw this Hori Fighting Stick Alpha that was an Xbox Series X arcade stick on my wish list. Didn't expect anyone to get it. It's not cheap. But my brother-in-law shocked me as like a last-minute Christmas gift, and that was like, oh my God.
Nice.
Like, so I had one of those, and like, well, shit, I'm gonna buy this now. This is a match made in heaven. So, you know, and Tina and I played through Battle Circuit twice because I also had one of those Brook adapters that I talked about many moons ago on this podcast. So I could use the Switch Hori arcade stick as well as this arcade stick, both on the Xbox at the same time. Nice. So we both had arcade sticks to play this beat 'em up, and it you know, that's how you play through a beat 'em up 2 times in a few days span with different characters.
God, man.
Why wouldn't you?
That sounds awesome, and I was so glad you got a co-op session in too, because I was just playing for Christmas. I got the physical copy of Streets of Rage 4 for Switch. I was scrolling, like my mom kept pestering me like, what else do you want? And you didn't ask for anything. I just asked for that mouse, and I was like, I'll find a couple games at least. And I was like, oh, that's only $25 at the moment. I was like, I'll ask for this. Doesn't seem that bad. It's got like the DLC, and I had played it initially on Game Pass. And Randall and I when we talked about it on the podcast, we had played through the whole game together, I think in one sitting pretty much. Or maybe we didn't beat it, but we got through like 10 chapters. I don't know. We played a bunch of the game.
I would be surprised if we didn't beat it, and I consider that game in some of the highest beat 'em up of Steam. Streets of Rage.
It's
4.
awesome. Yeah, it's right up there with like Turtles, the new Turtles game, just like we talked about. That's why I was like, I know we beat Turtles. I was like, did we beat Streets of Rage as well? And I'm pretty sure we did, because I remember we were like,
it was an internet drop or something. Like,
because I remember thinking like, oh man, there's 4 levels, 5 levels, 6, like there was like there's 10 levels, 12 levels, however many there were. I was like, this game is huge, but I will say, as fun as I played through the first 4 or 5 stages the other day, playing as Cherry with the guitar and everything. Who I think is who I was playing with as when we played together as well, if I'm not mistaken. But I as much as I was loving it, I was like, man, playing solo is just not the same as playing a beat 'em up with 2 players. It's just not the same. As good as, because I played some Shredder's Revenge on my own as well, and it's like, man, once we sunk up and played that together, it's like, okay, this is totally different game.
It is
so much more fun. So I'm glad you got some Battle Circuit co-op in. Did you play any of the other games in the series or in that collection?
Yeah, I did. I did. I sunk my teeth more into Gigawing, which I really hadn't played much before because it's a very expensive Dreamcast disc. Even back when I was more actively collecting, it was like, ooh, that's one of the more pricey ones. Like, and now it's 4 times as much. So of course I can't buy it now. You know, but it's a great shmup, like a bullet hell shmup. Again, with a lot of like collecting of currency, I guess you would say, like on the map and, you know, or on the screen or whatever. And, you know, that was a lot of fun to play with an arcade stick, of course. You know, shmups and arcade sticks go hand in hand too. So and jumped in and played a lot more of that than I expected to. I was just like, ooh, I see why people like this. You know, played a lot of that. There's a couple other games. I can't remember the name of. There was another fighting game that was on there that was like a robot based, and I can't remember the name of it offhand, but it also was late era, like 90s Capcom. I was like, oh geez.
I was gonna say that might have been the other one that like didn't get imported or whatever that I was thinking of, but I could be mixing it up. But I sort of remember there being like a mech or robot thing.
Yeah. So like I kind of like perused through because I just bought a couple of the packs because they were also on sale, and I'm like, I want Battle Circuit anyway, and I've got this stick now, so why not?
And those are just like digital downloads, the packs of games. Okay.
Yep. But yeah, they got like you know, they've even released newer packs that have like Puzzle Fighter on them and some of the, you know, other fighting games that they've got as well. So there's lots of good stuff on there. Street Fighter Alpha, Vampire Savior, the Darkstalker stuff, all kinds of fun stuff.
Oof. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. How many games usually come in the packs? Like 5-ish?
Yes, I think it's more than that. It's like 10. I think it's at least, I think it's like 10 per. Yeah, so this is a decent amount. I'm looking to see what that one was, and I'm like, God dang, what was that called? Oh, well.
But yeah, playing on those arcade sticks has got to feel good, especially getting like just the couch co-op. Like, I don't know, just it seems like that would be an awesome experience.
It was sweet. And yeah, it easily justified just with that, let alone any of the other modern fighting games I could get into. Cyberbots, that was the name of that fighting game. Cyberbots. Okay. Just nice. A really weird, very, very cool sprite art based robot, almost like what was the silly like 90s thing where people were making their own little robots that fought each other in the little arena.
BattleBots.
That's it. Kind of like that, but like a 2D fighting game where like, you know, the robot's arms and pieces could break off as you were fighting. I'm like, oh, there's something to this. That's cool. A lot of production values here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I gotta ask, because you glossed over it so quick. You gotta explain some of the move set of the girl on the ostrich. Like, what are some of those attacks? There's got to be a good neck attack.
Oh yeah, lots of pecking, lots of running happening there. Yeah, she's super cute on top of her pink ostrich. I think you can even have like different colors and stuff too. And nice. I love it too because you could buy like. There's like 5 or 6 moves like in between levels that you can upgrade to by collecting this currency in game. And, you know, the enemies will drop the currency, but you can also grab these like briefcases and stuff, but they don't stay forever. You have to kind of run over to them, you know, and grab them really quick in between, you know, as
the
boss
beautiful Joe thing that I could never do because I'm not good enough.
Yeah,
those games are impossible.
Yeah, Beautiful Joe's like a whole separate level of
great
pain,
games, but
also
impossible.
Capcom, all the same. Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, so there you go.
But that's cool though, because like sometimes like playing some of those older beat 'em ups, like it is just kind of like that's part of why I wanted to get like the Shredder's Revenge and Streets of Rage 4. Was like, oh, I kind of want to have these more modern. Like as much as I love the classics, like I like this like progression and just like it feels like a little more. It doesn't feel as much like I'm just slogging through the levels, even on the great ones, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I love beat 'em ups. I'm glad that you kind of keep me on that track because they're a genre that I kind of probably wouldn't think of all that often. But if I'm like, oh, there's online multiplayer, or oh, this is there's even a slim chance I might play a couch co-op with somebody. Like, oh yeah, I might as well get this one.
Yeah, and if you want one that's a little off the beaten path but still made very well, it's this one's a really good candidate there. You know, it's good. Yeah, that ostrich can do all kinds of like aerial attacks and spinning attacks. It's fun. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Nice. And I will say just briefly too, that Streets of Rage 4 soundtrack holds up pretty dang well, man.
It's awesome.
So good.
It's
so
great.
Good. I don't think it's quite up to the heights of 2 and 3, and I think we might have said that when we talked about it before, but man, that soundtrack is so good. Like it's right in that same ballpark with
which is really saying something because those are some of the best soundtracks of those eras. Like of the 16-bit era, those are some of the
not
best.
Just on Genesis. Like just some of the best soundtracks ever made.
Yes,
so it's got that same energy. They really were able to capture that again with new tunes, which is really cool.
100% agreed.
Yeah, but yeah, I think we can wrap it up there this week for the video games chit chat. We got John, at least on my screen, is all digitally distorted here. So we better sign off before we lose our internet connection. So, but yeah, I think we can wrap things up there for this week. And as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com. And at the risk of rambling, I'll just leave it there. And you can catch us next week. And take care until then. And take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Oh, brother.
Perfect.
I'm like in my head, I'm like, it's about midnight, so I should try to clap on the quiet side.
That's fair.
Take a clap on the quiet side.
Man. Talk about a song that's like not bad, but just gets super annoying if you hear it enough.
Oh yeah,
it's one of those songs that people would always put on at like the bar or like a jukebox, and just like, oh my god.
And also
for this one,
also on like those songs that have unfortunate lyrics that just do not age well at all.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Anyway.